Hey, hey, welcome back to the Spark Faith podcast. I am Dr. Chris Sargent, and today we are talking carbs. Yep, one of my favorite things to eat, and the not so good and the great of carbs today. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And hit like, hit subscribe, do the thing, do the review, do the screenshot, throw it out to all your social media friends. Please support this podcast. I would really appreciate it. So, we are going to talk everything carb today. Is there a difference between carbs? Are all carbs the same? The quick answer is no, not at all. Okay, podcast over. Kidding, kidding, kidding. So we're going to start with the obvious. We're going to start with the ultra processed foods, right? That when you think about this is stuff that comes in a box. It might be frozen. It's wrapped in plastic. It has a list of ingredients that is, more than 10 or 12 ingredients long. It's like things that you can't pronounce. Those are ultra processed foods. Think like anything that's doesn't resemble its original form, right? Think about sausage versus a piece of protein, or think about white bread versus whole grain quinoa or rice. Um, think about like these ultra processed gross fats versus this really clean extra virgin olive oil, right? And yeah, there's no vegetables in that. And I'm not talking about don't eat frozen vegetables. That's not what I'm talking about. But in your typical ultra processed foods, like anything that comes in a nugget or is breaded, fried, stuffed, um, yeah, stuff like that, pizza, chicken nuggets, French fries, that kind of ultra processed food, plus our fast foods, most of our fast foods. Um, Although there are some good choices, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. So we're talking because, and I start with this first because when you turn that over and look at the label, most of that is carbohydrate. There's very little protein involved. And the worst part about it is most of these ultra processed foods do not have the nutrients that your body needs to even break down and detoxify these foods. So they are sucking the nutrition out of your body, just like your stress does, just like drinking too much alcohol, just like drinking too much coffee, just like all the things that really suck nutrients out of your body. The pill, ladies, sucks a lot of nutrients out of your body. So, the actually, as your body has to detox them, like you're losing nutrition, you're losing the nutrients instead of being able to repair yourself. Your body, it's extra hard to detox them, so it needs more nutrition. Plus, they feed inflammation. So you're increasing inflammatory chemistry and you're decreasing repair. That's aging. So ultra processed foods, not good carbs. Let's just take them off the table completely, right? Or at least very, very infrequently. Okay. So what about grains? Well, for a lot of us, grains are great. I am not one of those people. However, a lot of people can do small amounts, which is a half a cup for most of us ladies, right? Of grains like quinoa or rice. Those are the most popular right now, but millet is another one. If you haven't tried it, it's totally yummy. Some people have wheat, some people do grits and corn. That's my favorite. That's what I'm talking, some grits. So, grains, definitely a form of complex carbohydrates. That means that they are dense and a small portion size is going to have a lot of carbohydrates. Like if you eat a cup of oatmeal, a cup of already made oatmeal, that's 40 to 50 grams of carbohydrates. hmm And for if you are in a weight loss phase or whatever, or you're pre-diabetic, then those numbers need to stay under 100. right? And so there's 40, and it zooms up your insulin, it zooms up all those things. So we have to be careful with some of our complex carbohydrates in terms of portion control and what we eat them with. We've talked about that in the protein episodes, right? So, what about legumes or beans? Now, they're an interesting kind of food and an interesting carbohydrate source because they also have very high fiber, and it's the good fiber that's great for all the bugs in your belly. Really, really good for all the bugs in your belly. And so, again, we have to watch out for portions. And so, I know I'm talking to some of you, maybe vegetarian, but just know that you're getting a lot of carbs. Yes, you're getting a lot of fiber, but you're not getting as much protein as you may need from all of those legumes, and that might contribute to some weight gain for some people. I know I can't eat a ton of grains or legumes because the weight just seems to start piling on. So what about winter or fall squashes like acorn squash or butternut squash? Again, portion control here, but now definitely lower on the carbohydrate end, definitely lower on the sugar, and lots of fiber still. So they make a nice balance. I love a good winter acorn squash or butternut squash. Again, in that half a cup to 3/4 of a cup serving size. What about root vegetables? Again, these are all of our complex carbohydrates. So root vegetables, potatoes, carrots, rutabagas, turnips, parsnips, sweet potatoes. Again, portion control, right? Tons of nutrients. So what we've talked about here, tons and tons of nutrients, are more nutrient dense. You don't need as very big of a serving as you do with these ultra processed foods, which you feel like you can never get enough of, right? You need less because they all contain fiber. And so grains, legumes, our fall squashes or winter squashes, and our root vegetables, all complex carbohydrates. Not the same, right? These are nutrient dense. They help to reduce inflammation, not for everybody. So grains and legumes for some people still cause a problem. So you have to figure that out, and we can figure that out together if you want. So just know that most of the time, those kind of foods have a lot more dense nutrition and a lot less chance of inflammation. Unless you're one of the people like me, grains and legumes, bad idea. So anyway, moving on. What about vegetables? What about zucchinis and summer squashes and broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts and all the lettuces and all the leafy greens? Those are less dense in terms of the carbohydrate count. Those are not complex carbs. So those are pretty much unlimited. You can pretty much eat as much of that as you want. It Watch what you're putting on them and how you're creating them and how you're making them, but those vegetables are the best kind of carb you can get. They're full of fiber, tons and tons of phytonutrients in all the colors, the peppers and all the greens and like the Swiss chard that's purple, like oh, so yummy and lots of flavor there. So no, all carbs are not made the same, and there's a big portion control difference between the complex carbohydrates and the rest of our vegetables that are also carbs and contain carbs, just in lower amounts, right? You can eat a lot of broccoli for 10 carbohydrates. You can't eat very much oats or grains or legumes for 10 carbohydrates. You're looking at about 1/4 of a cup or less. So there you go. That's the tea, as my daughter would say, on carbs today. Love you all. Take care. Bye.